response to it says that it was a genital tuberculosis, and people will agree in the past. Our professors used to give empirical treatment of tuberculosis in the cases of unexplained infertility, and it has been seen that people have conceived. Because at that time imaging modality was not there. Now with this we say a little more confident that this is genital tuberculosis, although 100% it is not possible. So to begin with this, okay. So what is the global scenario? Because we know with time the tuberculosis is increasing as a whole. 1/3 of the world population is infected with Mycobacterium tuberculosis. About 8 million cases are added every year, and about 3 million people are dying every year with Mycobacterium tuberculosis. We all know with the HIV we are increasing our tuberculosis cases also. It is estimated that in next 20 years we are going to increase 200 million people will get sick from Mycobacterium tuberculosis. From 8 million it is going to be 200 million. So what is the history of the tuberculosis? You can very well see that in the West, in the developed world, it was prevalent during the 70s and 80s. And in this part of the world, it is prevalent in the 20th and 21st century. So only in 1744, the Morgagni done an autopsy on a 20-year-old girl. That means these small girls are also having the tuberculosis at that moment in this developed world, and who died of tubercular peritonitis. The Higar in 1886 conducted the detailed study, but it has been said the genital tuberculosis is always secondary to the focus anywhere in the body. The most commonly affected genital organs are fallopian tube and the endometrium. The cervix and ovaries are the last affected organs. But what has happened in the developed world, there is a dramatic reduction. But in this world, it is increasing, and it is most common. The highest incidence has been found in India, South Africa, Russia, and Turkey. I do not know about the Pakistan, what is happening here. But definitely, we are now getting more and more cases of this from puberty to old age. In the menopause, even we are finding tubercular endometritis in the cases of menopausal bleeding. So tuberculosis is a very common problem in India. The major cause of infertility. It has got a varied presentation, and there is a diagnostic dilemma. As I said, most of the time we are not able to say it is genital tuberculosis. With this modality, we have increased our vision, but still we are lacking behind to diagnose all the cases. There is a correlation with genital tuberculosis to infertile women. There is a worldwide, there is only 5 to 10% is an association with the infertility, but in India it is nearly 1 to 19%. Why this lot of variation is there? Because we are having a different zones. The North India, the infertility is genital tuberculosis is commonly associated with infertility, but in the South we do not get this prevalence of the tuberculosis. So the chances of infertility with genital tuberculosis is low. So because of this variation in our own population, we have got this long variation. From various studies, in the US it is less than 1%, because we say now the developed countries almost have washed out this tuberculosis. It can be seen from age 15 to 60 years of the age. That means you can see it from adolescent to the postmenopausal age group. Now focus could be present anywhere in the body. And now what is the spread? It is a hematogenous spread, which is the most common spread, but it can be ascending, descending, or the direct from the other organs, like the bowel tuberculosis can also give rise to that. You have genital tuberculosis, pelvic tuberculosis, only because of the direct in contact. So what could be a clinical presentation, how we should see that, how we can think it out that this woman could be having a genital tuberculosis or the pelvic tuberculosis. The one thing, if the woman coming to you with this infertility or the pelvic pain, teomasis, on examination if you find the teomasis has been associated with the febrile conditions, fever, the chances are more of the abscess. Sometimes there is a chronic abscess there. You do not find anything, you just find even these abscesses, because they are the soft masses. You do not find anything in the pelvic examination. You say the pelvic examination is normal, but still when you do a sonography, you find so many findings. They're coming with the vaginal discharge. When you see, you do a speculum examination, you don't find anything, but still they're complaining of the vaginal discharge because there is some pathology is going on. The condition is there, and that keeps on giving you the discharge. But when you examine, you don't find it is increased discharge, or you don't find any associated pathology. The poor general condition of a woman, if she is having a poor nutritional status, or sometimes she is asymptomatic, she has come to you only for some other problem, but you say you want to investigate her for this cause. So common site of infection, as I said, fallopian tube, endometrium, ovary and cervix, and their incidence is like this. Fallopian tube is the most commonest part to be infected, or the Mycobacterium tuberculosis has got a highest affinity with the mucosa of the tube. So the various investigations can be done. There is a list of the investigations can be done, but I am going to speak only on the endovaginal sonography for out of this investigative list. One can see here, there is a ascites is there, and the pelvic organs are being just floating into it. But what you can see, there is a tubes which are highly echogenic structures is coming out. Although this is because of the fluid, it is giving a very good resolution also. So what are the early findings you can see? Sometimes you just find a minimal fluid in the pouch of Douglas and you do not find any reason for it. So you investigate further. If no other reason has been found, sometimes the empirical treatment has been given and you find there is a response is there. The matted bowel loops, the echogenic bowel loops could be there. This is a small amount of the fluid is present in this tray. Because what happens, that tubercular exudates are covering all over this. Even the tubercular tubes are not supposed to be always a blocked tube. Most of the time it is an open tube because it depends. This Mycobacterium tuberculosis is involving your serosa, mucosa or a submucous layer. According to the involvement, your tube functions will go on. So what is this? In cases, if any woman who is having a chronic pelvic pain, menstrual irregularity, with a normal vaginal examination, unexplained infertility, suspected cases, these cases could be suspected, this could be diagnosed, but if sometimes only where the history we are having this suspicion of the genital tuberculosis, the ultrasonography may help you out in looking at the endometrium, myometrium, fallopian tubes, pouch of Douglas and other things. Other investigation can be done with this. If they come out to be negative, still we think it off. Tubal block could be there on the HSG, then women can be coming to you for the pelvic sonography. You can find associated problems are there, and maybe they are surgically possible to remove them, sometimes not, sometimes you just keep them on the conservative management. The TO-masses and unexplained complaint of the vaginal discharge. These are the things, indications for doing a transvaginal sonography in the cases of genital tuberculosis whenever you suspect. What we have to see there, it could be you can find only a thickened tubal wall. Normally the tubes are not visualized when you are doing a transvaginal sonography. It is only visualized whenever there is a fluid in the lumen or the walls are being infected. So sometimes only a thickened tubal wall could be there, or it could be a club-shaped ampullary end, or it could be a dilated thick wall tube. There is a dilatation of the lumen of the tube. The normal size is only 3 to 4 millimeters, and if it is more than 10, you know that it is a dilated tube. It is a pathological dilatation of the tube. There is a blocked fallopian tubes could be there because of the endosyphingitis. It could be anechoic, hypoechoic, echogenic collection. The tubal lumen could be there, or there could be only hydrosyphings, or could be other associated findings. Now this is one of the signs in which you can see there is a convolution of the tubes. And this is a lumen which has been dilated. You see there is a echogenic septas are there which is making a cockbill appearance. This is another site in which you can see this is different sections. This is longitudinal, this is transverse section, and this is one of the septa into the lumen of the tube. The another site in which you can see the tube has been dilated, the ampullary end has been blocked, and this is having a echogenic material into it. This is a second section of the same picture. This is another example in which you can see this is a different, the lumen is having only been filled with the anechoic fluid, and sometimes we confuse this with the ovarian cyst, and I can tell you that many times we are aspirating, thinking it of it is ovarian cyst, although it is a hydrosyphing. So So coming to the adnexa, you can find in the adnexa the fluid in the Calvi sac you can find, or you can find the distortion in the anatomy. You cannot see the ovary clearly. You just find there is a jumbled up, dirty looking masses in the adnexa, which could be a tumor masses, which could be a tubercular abscess, which could be a pelvic abscess, or they could be having the adhesions with the bowel and omentum and pelvic adhesions. Why we want to know all this? Because our prognosis depends upon this, whether the adhesions are there, whether the adhesions are not there. If we are going to operate on them, which type of the difficulties we are going to face if the sonologist has reported the adhesions are there. We are mentally prepared that we are going to take a longer time. We may have other problems also associated with it. We could are going to face a bowel problem, so we can call the surgeon, which is already there. We will not waste time in calling the surgeon and finding the surgeon at the time of the operation if we are operating on these women. So how the adnexal masses form? The repeated displays of the exudates provoke the adhesion between the fallopian tubes, ovary and round ligament bowel loop. As I said, it depends upon where this mycobacterial tuberculosis is going to involve. So it is not a 100% blocked tube. These exudates keep on collecting into the lumen of the tube, and they have been poured into the peritoneal cavity, and that is how they are forming the adhesions with the surrounding organs. And thus they are giving the heterogeneous mass, the heterogeneous echogenic masses into the adnexa, which may be having a hypoechoic, anechoic and the echogenic masses, or may be having a calcified stress in these ill-treated cases. These are all ill-treated cases, including pouch of Douglas. So these are the films which are having adnexa, in which you cannot see the normal anatomy, you cannot see the normal ovary, you can see the uterus, in which also the myometrium is not very well defined. The tubo-ovarian abscesses could be another presentation of the pelvic tuberculosis, in which you can find there is a heterogeneous echo-complex masses of the cystic, they may be having a cystic necrosis or the thick exudation. They may be unilocular, septate, depending upon their acute or chronic presentation. The ovaries may be involved only in 30% of the cases. Rest of the time when you operate, you see that ovaries, or you in the even in when doing your sonography, if you just put and give more attention, you can find it out that ovaries are separate from this mass, but they are adherent to each other, so they just move in a block when you try to move them. Thick capsule retention cyst may also be there. So differential diagnosis what you have to make, because there is an overlapping picture is also there. It could be endometrioma, it could be a chronic ruptured ectopic pregnancy, and it could be a periappendicular abscess. Now here the history and the examination and other investigation plays a lot of roles to differentiate between the tubercular abscess and the other pelvic masses. These are the picture in which you can see there is a not only this is a outer, this is an inner mucosa which is irregular, and there is a dilatation and there is a septation are there. There is an echogenic connection in the lumen. This is another case in which you can find these are the bilateral masses are going to be there. This is CT scan. This picture, now I can recall this picture belonged to one of our professor's wife who had a pyrexia of unknown origin. She did not know what to do, but only by sonography her pelvic abscesses could be diagnosed, aspirated, re-aspirated, again re-aspirated, and she took nearly 2 years time to get all right. Sometimes you get a frozen pelvis. Frozen pelvis, you just cannot make it out anything. You just cannot see anything separately. You can see how uterus is all, you cannot differentiate between the myometrium, the all normal echogenicity of the myometrium is also lost. This is another picture in which you can see there is a fluid in the pouch of Douglas, and there is a tube is floating into it, and here it is not an endosalpingitis, most of the time is an exosalpingitis, in which you can find the walls of the tubes are thicker, then more of the lumen is dilated. So it depends on picture, depends upon whether it is exosalpingitis, endosalpingitis.